Constantino,
¿Qué huele?
pound for pound.
Little Giant Boxing.
It was, I love Derek, but it was quite predictable, because of the first two fights. And Tyson's at the peak of his powers at the moment, and Derek's still a very good heavyweight, but not quite at that level. But he gave it everything, and I think the fight should have been stopped a lot earlier. But routine victory, and on he goes.
What's next for Joshua? What's next?
He'll be fighting end of March, early April. He's just touched down in America. He's getting his training plans together, which will start in the first week of January, and looking to announce his date very soon. And an opponent will follow in due course. I think the opponent will probably come once he completes his training plans, because I think it's important to speak to the training team to decide who they want, because he would fight anybody. But obviously they'll want a specific fighter to develop working with him and moving forward.
Is he shopping trainers again? How he was?
I think he's always, looking and learning and speaking, and had a good experience with Robert Garcia. But I think he's definitely looking at his camp and how he can improve it for the next one.
Of all your prospects, where do you rank Pacheco?
I think he's incredible. I mean, we signed him at 17 and we had to box him in Mexico for a while because he couldn't fight. And he was a very quiet guy. Although he was very tall in frame, he looked like he had a lot of filling out to do, which is starting to happen. He's got a great trainer in Jose Benavidez Sr. And I think that he's a future world champion. He's only 21, he's 16-0. I expect him to have another 4 or 5 fights at the level slightly above tonight. But I think he's an outstanding prospect, probably one of the best in America.
Is Canelo have a third fight with Matchroom and DAZN still?
We have the rematch clause in play with Bivol, obviously, which he's wants to exercise for September. So in that case, we make the interim fight as well, which we're looking at. Obviously, John Ryder is our fighter. He's the mandatory for Canelo Alvarez with the WBO. He's the interim world champion with the WBO. So it's very likely that will be next, and then the Bivol fight will be in September.
You said there was a rematch clause, so is Bivol obligated for the rematch?
Subject to certain terms, but ultimately, if the numbers work for that fight, which we know it would, then that fight will happen. But he also wants to fight Beterbiev for the undisputed at 175, and also, I think the interesting thing about the fight is that I think that Bivol would like to fight Canelo at 168 to try and become undisputed, and I think Eddie Reynoso would be up for that as well. I think for Saul, probably would prefer it at 175 because he lost at 175. Do you know what I mean? But Bivol is all about the belts. He's all about becoming undisputed. And if he fights Canelo at 168 for undisputed, he could then fight Beterbiev at 175 for undisputed, win or lose.
Eddie, what do you make of those comments that Bivol, obviously he's always very respectful, but he made it a point that Canelo's coming up with excuses.
Excuses?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think, to be honest with you, I don't think that Canelo's performance against Bivol or Triple G was quite up to his standards. Now, obviously, we know he was carrying an injury, but I don't know. I think that we expect so much from Canelo Alvarez that if he doesn't perform A-star every time, everyone starts wondering what's happening. We have to give credit to Bivol because it was an unbelievable performance. We saw in the Ramirez fight, this guy is a pound-for-pound great as well, and up at 175, it's very difficult for Saul to compete with those guys, but that's what he wanted to do.
Yeah, what's next for Canelo? Obviously, John Ryder is in the mix.
I think he'll be Ryder. I think I would love to take Saul abroad and fight internationally. He's done Las Vegas so many times. We had a great run through the back of COVID where we went to San Antonio with Callum Smith, we went to Miami with Yildirim, then we went to Dallas with Billy Joe Saunders, then he fought in Vegas against Caleb Plant. Now he's gone Vegas. I'd love to see him fight in London, and I'd also love to see him fight in Mexico.
Is that a stadium fight?
Yeah, in London, for sure. I mean, he would just be huge in London.
Have you spoken to him about fighting in London? And how is
I spoke to Eddie Reynoso and he said, look, let us know the options. London, Mexico, America. I'd like to see him, if he's going to fight in America, personally, I'd like to see it in a stadium. I'd love to see him do the stadium shows. Dallas Cowboys against Billy Joe was unbelievable. Even Miami during COVID, we were only allowed 19,000 or something like that in the Hard Rock. That was incredible as well. I'd love to take him to Mexico, but it's, Eddie and Saul, the bosses, will just present the offers and the options, and they'll choose.
Eddie, do you feel if the fight, hopefully David and Caleb happens, do you believe the winner of that fight, because it seems like that seems like a fight that Canelo's kind of holding off on, and I don't think he's necessarily ducking. Do you think whoever wins that fight is should they
I mean,
deserve that fight with Canelo?
Firstly, it's all I don't.
future?
I have no say. You know, it's all down to Eddie Reynoso and Saul. I don't see any point in a Caleb Plant rematch. He beat him up and he knocked him out after a good start from Caleb Plant. I think the David Benavidez Canelo Alvarez fight is a big fight if he beats Caleb Plant. And you know, I've been very lucky to get to know Canelo. He would never ever duck one fighter. But he also feels like, not that you have to earn your shot, but you know, you can't just fight nobody and get a shot.
And expect the fight.
And I think David Benavidez would agree. He's boxed nobody so far at elite level.
Right.
The Caleb Plant fight is a fantastic fight. That's exactly the kind of fight that should be getting made. If he beats Caleb Plant, I think he can scream from the rooftops for a fight with Canelo Alvarez, and I expect him to get there. Obviously, Canelo's plans this year are maybe John Ryder and Dmitry Bivol, but then after that, a Benavidez fight would be very big.
Who would you like to see Bivol next? Obviously, I would imagine it's going to be a fight in between the Canelo.
Yeah, I mean, well, you got, you know, Beterbiev's fighting at the end of January, and then it's Ramadan, so he's probably not going to be around until the end of summer. So Bivol will have to fight before. I'd like him to fight Joshua Buatsi, maybe Callum Smith, another great fight as well. But you know, he'll want to stay busy. He's had a fantastic 2022.
What do you think about Charlo saying he wants to fight him and all that?
When did Charlo last fight? It's like a year and 3 months ago. I don't understand. You know, boxing is so messed up with fighters who are making too much money that don't represent their commercial value. I was guilty of that when we came into America. But these guys would rather not fight. It tells you how much they love the sport and care about their legacy, where really they're just happy to just drive around in Lamborghinis and not really get in a gym. That's why I have so much respect for Canelo, because he actively wants to fight. You know, he could just have a year off if he wanted to and just go on holiday. But he wants to get back in the gym, he wants to fight, and that's what they should be doing. But too many of them are so inactive.
Jaime Munguia raised his hand and said he was willing to face Bivol if the opportunity presents itself. Jaime Munguia. Do you take him serious?
No.
Wow. Why not?
Jaime Munguia. By the way, I like Jaime Munguia, right? And I like Fernando Beltran and these guys. His resume is awful. Awful. Right? The fights that he's had recently, quite frankly, I don't want to go in too hard because I like the guy and I like the team, but he had an opportunity to move up and fight Demetrius Andrade when he moved to middleweight. He said no, right? Then he went and fought nobody about 8 times. Then he's just had the opportunity to fight Janibek for the world title, and he said no. Like, I don't know what they are doing with Jaime Munguia. I think he's a good fighter. I think he looks great. I think he could be a superstar, but it is just the worst matchmaking from Golden Boy I've ever seen. And the last guy, that was unbelievable. I mean, it was bad leading up to that, but I don't know what he's doing. You know,
Speaking of matchmaking, there was a few comments by Bob made the other day. I'm not sure if you had a chance to you heard it. If you have a commentary, says that Eddie Hearn is it's pretty much a scrub what he was saying in the U.S. I think it was amazing. Can you speak to maybe his comments that Bob made towards you?
I said that Bob's 90 whatever. He's off his head on everything that he takes, and I just feel that there's an agenda on us. Like you saw it tonight. It was a great show.
Absolutely.
You know, we just did Canelo Triple G. We did Canelo Bivol. I just did Bivol Ramirez. We did Taylor Serrano at Madison Square Garden. I think we had a pretty good year. In fact, I think Top Rank is in a horrific situation with ESPN. If you look at their ratings, if you look at the actual shows and the gates that they're delivering, they're not going to any big arenas. I don't think they have any ambition. They're going to Las Vegas to Resorts World and Virgin Hotel and just staging fights in 1,500. What have they got coming up? Effie Ajagba against Oscar Rivas as a main event at Turning Stone. That's giving up. Bob Arum's got no ambition anymore because why would he? I wouldn't have any ambition. I'd be on a beach. Do you know what I mean? But I'm staging shows around the world every single week. So, you know, we go back for Josh Warrington against Lopez next week, great fight in Leeds. And we look forward to a great schedule. You know, normally I get blamed for saying too much about people, but now people are saying, you know, and the funny thing is, I've got to say one thing, is someone posted that interview and it just come up on my Twitter, liked by Leonard Ellaby. And I thought to myself, that says it all. That says everything you need to know. This guy's sitting at home, yes, another bad interview about Eddie Hearn. You know what I mean? While he's sitting there, while Floyd Mayweather and Gervonta Davis are fighting on DAZN. Anyway, next question.
What do you make about that Mayweather Promotions and Tank Davis?
Sorry?
Fiasco, the Tank Davis Mayweather Promotions.
They've lost him. I mean, he's come out. I mean, the one thing I don't understand about Gervonta Davis is why does he keep tweeting and then deleting it like 10 minutes later? It's really quite annoying. He done one about me earlier, and I went back to read it, and it had gone. Someone had screenshotted it, luckily, but it's very strange. But you know, he's said a dozen times he's no longer under promotion with Mayweather Promotions. So,
have you had a chance to talk to him? I know the last time we spoke about this, Leonard Ellerby and Mayweather Promotions sent you a document saying you couldn't talk to him anymore or talk about him. I don't know if he has still the chance or has he reached out to you?
Maybe.
Question.
So is that fight not going to be
a statement? I just want to thank you for being a big promoter of women's boxing. What are your thoughts about women's boxing?
I think it is unbelievable. I think it's fantastic. In fact, I'm negotiating the Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano fight at the moment, and I say I can't believe the numbers that we're talking, but it's just deserved. You know, but if you'd have said to me the money that these two are making for the rematch a year ago, let alone 3 years ago, I would have said absolutely no chance. They want to fight each other. They want to fight the best. The champions want to fight the champions. Every champion wants to be undisputed. There's no politics. There's no egos. It's so refreshing.
Eddie, is your legal issues with Jake Paul having an issue between Amanda Serrano and Dick Taylor
No, that's the legal situation is ongoing, but the negotiations are also ongoing and not had any effect on that at all.
Eddie Tank against Ryan Garcia is going to be exclusively on DAZN then?
No, I'm not involved with that, but as I understand it,
I know, but
obviously it's Showtime and
DAZN.
DAZN. And brilliant by Stephen Espinoza and Joe Markowski, those guys, to get that done, because that is a great fight. That is one of the biggest fights in boxing. You know, two very different fan bases, two very different fights. I hope it happens.
Would that open the door for maybe a Gennady Golovkin, Jermall Charlo?
Yeah. I mean, I just don't see Charlo as a draw, honestly. Like, I don't know. You know, I don't see how you can build the profile of a fighter when he's inactive for 15, 16 months. More than that, because he's not going to fight this year. He's not going to fight in January. He's not even in the gym. So I think. I mean, Gennady Golovkin against Jaime Munguia. Now that's a fight that could be a lot more interesting, in my opinion, and a lot bigger. Listen, if I'm Jaime Munguia, I'm trying to get a fight with Canelo Alvarez. For me, that's a massive fight. But at the same time, you've got to beat opposition, like we said earlier, to put yourself in the hat for that fight.
Eddie, do you think that... I'm from Nicaragua.
Hi, I'm from London.
Eddie, I'm talking to... I want to ask you about Christopher Rosales. He's alive now, 112 pounds, beating Joselito Velasquez. Before the fight, he said he's killed or dead. For me, I don't have tomorrow. What do you think about his presentation tonight?
I thought he was fantastic. I thought it was a very close fight, actually. I tweeted at the end of the fight saying maybe a draw. And everyone went, no, Rosales won easy. So I got that wrong, but I thought it was a really good performance. I felt that after the Martinez fight and then he lost again, I thought that was the end of his career. But he came back. He looks very good, looks very healthy. And I think he has a big future.
Eddie, piggybacking on the women's boxing, you're talking about they all want to unify and all those type of fights. It seems like the only places we're getting fighters that want to fight for those kind of fights are the women's division in total, and then like the lower weight divisions in men's. What can we do in boxing as a promoter, as fighters, just to kind of rectify that, where the other divisions have that same gumption to do the same?
It's just like money. I mean, you look at Terence Crawford. I don't know whether it's true. He's making 10 million to fight David Avanesian. He won't. What? 7. I mean, it won't do 10,000 buys. 10,000, right? If it's $60, right? It won't do 10,000 buys. So, like, if you're getting paid that much to fight Avanesian, you want 20 to fight Spence, or you want 25, which is still too much money. So everybody's like just going mad. And the problem is, if it's out there, you know, I say it's not the right commercial price or commercial value, but if it's out there, you know, it's just madness. But I just feel like you're going to be inactive. These guys are so inactive. Like Errol Spence now, you know, I mean, when's he going to fight? They talk about March, maybe against Thurman or something like that. But
can anybody promote Terence Crawford? I mean, could you promote Terence Crawford?
I mean, Not for that sort of money. but at the same time, he's an unbelievable fighter. But the way you promote a fighter is you build them. You have to get hold of them early enough. Diego Pacheco is a good example, right? He turns pro at 17, you start boxing him on these big shows, he looks good, he starts knocking people out, he's from South Central LA, then you fight him on a card all of a sudden, and you hear a much bigger round of applause when he walks in. And you go, oh, and that happened about a year ago. Now every show, like again tonight, and then people walk away tonight and they go, see that Diego Pacheco? Yeah, he's someone we can get behind. He's 21. Right. When he gets to 23, he's going to be headlining in LA, and he'll be selling out the old StubHub there, right? Right. And that's how you build a fighter. Terence Crawford is now like 34. Yeah, brilliant fighter, pound for pound, maybe pound for pound number one. But I feel like they should have built him more. It's difficult because you want to just fill arenas with him in Nebraska, but you can't generate the gate you need in Nebraska. But for me, visually, when you turn on the TV and you see a guy who's selling 10,000 plus, that's when you're building a star. Same with Deontay Wilder in Alabama, when they went there and done that. It's wild, you know? But Americans and everybody will tune in and see. It's like tonight. If you tuned in tonight, you go, wow, it's wild in there, great atmosphere. So you're immediately engaged. If you turn on somewhere and it's empty, you just think, this guy's no star. So building a fighter is not something you can do at 34.
Right, but I mean, so Terence Crawford, as good as he is, as people within the sport know, as good as he is he a lost cause?
No, I mean, it's not a lost cause because he's pound for pound number one. You can't be that. But what I'm saying is, the problem you have in this country is Terence Crawford could walk down Glendale in the mall, right, or in Phoenix or wherever, and no one would have a clue who he is.
That's right.
And he's the pound for pound number one in the sport. I find that unbelievable.
Yeah, so do I. I guess my question is that how can that be good for the sport?
No, it's not. But I think it's a mixture of laziness. I think it's also boxing has a tough time because there's so many different sports ahead of it in the pecking order here. Like if there's a British champion in England who walks into a shopping mall, they'll get mobbed because boxing is probably the number 2 or number 3 sport. It's different, you know? Right, guys?
Eddie, what do you think of Usyk meeting Fury in the ring after tonight?
Yeah, I think
how
it's